Systems Wise podcast.
Hello there and welcome to the show. This is Systems Wise, the show about overcoming sales, marketing and systems challenges. I'm Gareth Everson, and on today's episode I'm going to be wrapping up the landing pages series, and I'm going to give you a takeaway of 5 very common mistakes that people make with their landing pages. So let's get into it. So you've spent your time thinking about what that opt-in offer might be, and you've structured your landing page, and you've thought about the lead magnet that somebody's going to get, or the offer to perhaps meet with you if they're lower down the funnel. But things aren't quite going to plan when you push it live. People are visiting the page, but then leaving without doing the thing that you really want them to. Let's focus on some of those areas that are causing people to abandon that visit to your website before they do that action that you'd really like them to do on your page. And the big one, the first one, and this is the most common one in my experience that people get wrong, and probably the one that's least spoken about in marketing circles or in small business circles. And that's this challenge of the person that's coming to your page is at completely the wrong stage of their buyer's journey compared to the offer that you're making them on the page. Remember, there are 3 key parts to the buyer's journey. Their top of funnel, or their middle of funnel, or their bottom of funnel. Top of funnel, remember, it's those people who recognize that they've got a problem. They know that they've got an issue, and what they're looking for is more of an understanding of what they need to do there. You're providing, in this instance, an outlet for them to be educated, to understand that challenge that they face more. So the key parts of this are that it needs to be pretty light on commitment. It needs to be easily digestible. It needs to be high on the value that it provides them very quickly. And it needs to be associated with them understanding more about the challenge that they face. One of the big issues that people have when they're trying to attract top of funnel leads and it's just not working for them is that they're trying to do too much with that first landing page that top of funnel visitor encounters from you. You're asking them to marry you before you've had a chat and bought them a drink. That's the analogy of if you think about it in a dating perspective. So the best type of opt-in offers for top of funnel knowledge seekers, education seekers, people that are trying to build up an understanding around how to get to grips with that problem that they faced, are things like free guides or checklists or resources that help them identify and solve what those problems are. I can't stress enough, this is educational content that you're giving them. If I think of an example, I do a lot of work with physiotherapists, and one of the mistakes that many physios make is that for the first visitor, the first top of funnel visitor that comes to their website, they'll offer them a free consultation. Whereas in actual fact, the best operators in this space who recognize the fact that probably most people that recognize they've got a back problem or a neck problem or a shoulder problem, what they want more than anything when they first recognizing that they've got an issue that they need to solve is some guidance around, well, is there a way that I can solve that on my own through perhaps some exercises or some stretches or some movement activities and solve that particular physical pain that I've got myself. And so the better physiotherapy practices are offering them easily downloadable guides in return for probably just their email address or first name and email address that might be 7 exercises to strengthen your knee, for example, or to resolve knee pain. If you think about that in the context of your business, obviously this episode isn't just aimed at physiotherapists, but if you are, welcome. If you think about that in the context of your business, what are those problems that your target market faces where you can meet them where they are if they're in that I have a problem phase of their discovery? So give that some thought. That's top of funnel. When we're talking about middle of funnel, these people are actually then in that zone of trying to find a solution to that problem that they've got. They're solution seekers. What middle of funnel people are looking for, they're not ready to buy yet, but they understand their problem just that little bit more. They're looking for outcome solutions that will help them along their way. What they're looking for is comparisons. They know that they've got to spend some money to solve this. They know that the problem's not going away on its own. What they're looking for is comparison content. So, for example, on your landing page, they're going to be looking for certainly signals that you're able to provide them with more detailed content, comparison tools, something that's more solution focused. And great options for this are things like quiz or assessment tools to help them fully hone in on that challenge that they face by asking them 8 or 10 questions, which by this stage, they're more invested in looking for solutions to their challenge. They're going to be more invested in being able to give you the time to answer more questions on your opt-in form, and having a quiz or some sort of assessment model to be able to do that is an absolutely fantastic way to do it. What can you promise them in return? What are the best opt-in offers for people who are middle of funnel? Well, they're probably looking for comparison guides or buyer's guides to solve their problem, especially ones that position themselves as more independent and balanced. So they're looking for assessment tools. They're looking for case studies. If it's a big commitment financially, they're probably looking for things like budgeting tools. So if you're providing your client base with something that's a meaningful investment that they need to make, think about these different types of tools that you can use to attract people that are at the middle of funnel. When I talk to my clients about middle of funnel content or offers, many of them scratch their heads, but actually middle of funnel is probably one of the easier ones to provide some sort of offer for, because some of these tools, some of these buyer's guides or these budgeting tools or spreadsheets or case studies, that kind of thing, you're probably using them internally in your business already. So have a think about, is there anything that you've got in-house that you're using yourself or amongst your team that you could refactor a little bit and clean up a little bit to remove things that are sensitive, to make them more ready as downloadable tools that your middle of funnel audience can use. Then our third stage of the buyer's journey is the bottom of the funnel. And what these people are looking for is the product or the solution for their problem that they've got, right? They're looking for sales content. How can I buy something now to be able to solve this problem that I now know about and that I understand that little bit more? Who can I buy from that's going to be able to solve that from me? So many businesses are purely focused on people being ready to buy, that this is a really competitive market when you're targeting people at the bottom of funnel. So don't dismiss folks who are top of funnel or middle of funnel. But if you are, and I'd encourage you to create content for the bottom of funnel and landing pages for the bottom of funnel, when you're creating this content for bottom of funnel visitors, you're thinking about things that provide that level of reassurance that they're looking for, that they're in the right place to be able to solve that problem. So they're looking for really strong proof that you're the right service provider or product provider to be able to solve this problem. Social proof, reviews, testimonials. They're also looking for, at this stage, given that they know roughly what they're going to have to invest to solve this problem, they're looking for clear pricing and really specific outcomes that you're able to provide for them. So if you've got on your site pricing guides or pricing structures, pricing tables, make sure they're really clear and they leave fewer questions in that person's mind than when they visited that page in the first place. The other thing that you can provide is risk reversals. So what do we mean by that? We mean things like guarantees or money back offers, that if it doesn't go right and if you're not able to provide a solution to the problem that they have, they can at least either work with you for longer for free, or you offer them a money back guarantee. So all of these elements, the social proof, the risk reversals, the guarantees, the clear pricing, and being very specific around the outcomes that they're going to get from working with you, you need to be really clear about that on your landing page. And in terms of what a offer looks like at bottom of funnel, it's probably in that realm of booking a consultation with you. So it might be an appointment booking widget that you include on there rather than a opt-in form. It might be, if you're able to offer some sort of trial for your service, some sort of sign-up mechanism to engage with you in a trial. If it's something that's maybe less expensive or requires less discussion on your part to be able to get them over the line and make that sale, it might actually be a sales form, a direct sales form, especially if they're investing, let's say, less than £100, or perhaps even considerably less than that, to get a taster of that overall solution. So £10, £20, or perhaps even less. The other thing, if you have a service whereby there's some sort of demonstration that you can give them in advance, another opt-in method for bottom of funnel people would be a demo request. So those are the key elements for people who are bottom of funnel. The key thing here, and the message that I want to get across in terms of mistakes that people make, the most common mistake is that every landing page that you put up on your site is targeted at bottom of funnel people, whereas probably only 2% of folks who come to your website are in buying mode. And so if all of your content is oriented around them making a commitment to you, that's quite a sizable one, whether it's a time one or a monetary one, you're missing out on anybody that's actually more in sort of educational mode or discovery mode or solution seeking mode. You're missing out on that top of funnel or that bottom of funnel visitor. So those are the key things around this first problem, is that in that you're targeting people who are at the wrong stage of their buyer's journey compared to the content that you're putting on your landing pages and the offers that you're putting in front of them. The next mistake that I'd like to touch on with you is one that we've covered in a few of these episodes, but one that I want to remind you about. As experts in what we do, we know the solution that we provide and our audience that we provide that to in and out. And that can often lead us as experts to make our pages way too complicated than they need to be. We're using technical language, or we're feeling that we need to provide every last level of detail around the offer or the solution or the challenge that people face. In actual fact, the person that's coming to our site doesn't need all of that. What they really need more than anything is to feel like they're in the right place and to feel like they can trust the person that is running the page that they visited, that they can solve a problem that they've got, or they can at least help them and guide them further down a pathway that they're on. So don't use overcomplicated language. Make it as simple as possible, make it as accessible as possible for that visitor, and make the tone and the words that you use on that page as simple to read as possible. Good guidance on this is that you aim that language at a level that an 11, 12 or 13-year-old child could read. If you put the content that you've written, the written part of your landing page, into ChatGPT and ask them to assess that language against the reading ability of an 11, 12 or 13-year-old, then those tools will tell you if the language that you're using is at the right level for that audience. So don't overcomplicate your language. That's another thing that will quickly turn people off. The other thing that's associated with overcomplicated language is that it's way too long. And that's the next mistake that people are making. It's this text overload challenge. Your visitors to your website, when they come there, with the best will in the world, probably on that first couple of seconds when they get to your website, aren't going to read every single word. They're probably going to skim up and down your website. If you've got web readers or web assessors built into your website, what they'll show you, especially if they've got this kind of scrolling replay capability, they'll show you that when people come to your website, what they first do is skim down your website. They're looking at headings, they're looking at imagery, and they're working out whether they're in the right place to get the answers for the stage that they're at. So don't include massive walls of text on your website. Keep things nice and simple, short paragraphs, bullet points, and good quality images to make them feel that they're in the right place, so that once they get that warm and fuzzy feeling, if you like, when they've done that skim read, they stay on the page to digest it more and read more. You'll do the same. Now that you've heard me say this on the podcast, you'll probably recognize the fact that when you're going to a new website for the first time, you don't read every single word of every single paragraph when you first get to a website. You'll recognize that you're skimming as well. So build your own landing page for that audience who's doing the same. The fourth of our 5 big mistakes that people make when they're creating landing pages is that they don't have any level of personal touch to that web page. If you're not including photographs of people that are like them or images of yourself, try and include both. Don't make it just about you. Don't make it just about your target audience. Websites that don't include these can feel a little bit impersonal. So make sure that the visitor to the website, especially if they don't know who you are already, have that context and that connection that your business is a real business and that the people that they'll be dealing with are people who are like them or are like that expectation that they have of somebody that would be working in your space. So don't have huge blocks of text. Don't have really fake stock images of people that they can't really connect with. Make sure that there's a genuine sense that they get that there's real humans behind the business and that the kind of people that you help are people that they can identify with who are like them. Keep your images in line with that feel of a personal touch. The final mistake that I'm going to talk about on today's podcast is a lack of a clear call to action on your page. It would stagger you the number of landing pages that are out there that have clearly had hours and hours of effort and investment put into them that then don't have a really clear call to action on that page of what you want that person that's visited to do next, whether it's fill in your form, book an appointment with you, download a guide, fill in your quiz. By the way, it shouldn't just be one button on the page. It should be multiple links on the page that go to the section of the page where the visitor will do what you want them to do. Don't just have one tiny button that has some vague message on it like submit or get started or something like that. Make sure that across the page, it's really clear to that visitor what the offer is going to be and what they need to do in order to take that next step. So links on the page that go to the section where they're going to do the action that you're asking them to do. Make sure that it's really clear that they can go and do that. So what do I mean specifically around that? Well, when somebody visits your page for the first time, and this can be across the buyer's journey, whether it's top of funnel, middle of funnel, or bottom of funnel, above the fold, so before they scroll, what they should be able to see clearly in there is a headline and a subheadline that reassures them that they're in the right place. But also, they should be able to see whatever that offer happens to be, or at least a link to it. So if it's an opt-in form, make sure that you've got the opt-in form at the very top. If it's a action where you're asking them to do something, place a small order or book an appointment with you, at least include in that above the fold, the first thing that they come to on the page, at least include some reference and a button that they can go and book that appointment or place that order or whatever it happens to be that you want them to do. When they first get to the page, there should be a real clarity that there will be an offer that they can take advantage of and go and do the thing that helps them at whatever stage that they're at in that process. When you do this in your business, it's been proven that if you give them that clarity and you give them that transparency that there is something in it for them on that page, they're far more likely to stick around and do that action that you want them to do than if you left it up to them to scroll and go and find that action themselves on the page. So be really transparent, be really clear at the top of the page that there is something that you want them to do, a button that links to it, a form that you want them to fill in. So as we wrap up this episode, let me just quickly run through that list of 5 mistakes that people make. So at least when you are creating your next landing page, you can have this list in mind to make sure that you're not making these mistakes. The first one, make sure that you are targeting people at the right stage of their buyer's journey, that you're associating the offer that you're making with them with the stage that somebody is at. And that means you definitely need at least 3 different landing pages on your website with places around your website based on content that they're seeing on those different pages that link to landing pages that are more associated with the stage that they're at in their buyer's journey. Second one, don't overcomplicate the language that you're using on the page. You are the expert at what you do. Your visitor is not. That goes without saying. If you were selling to other experts in your field, you would be saying so many more different things to what you'll be saying to somebody who's not an expert, who's going to be prepared to spend a lot of money with you to solve that problem that they have. But meet them where they are. Don't overcomplicate your language and keep the language simple enough such that an 11, 12, or 13-year-old child could read the language that's on the page and have an understanding of what you want them to do. Going along with that, the third mistake is that people use too much text on landing pages. Remember, people skim websites. They don't read everything from cover to cover on that page in one sitting. The fourth mistake is that you're not applying any level of personal touch. Images of you and images of your target market need to be prominent on your website. The person that's visiting your site needs to feel that they're in the right place. Can they trust you? Can they have confidence that you've helped people like them in the past? And then fifth and finally, the other big mistake that people make is that you're not giving them a clear call to action of what you want them to do, and you're not linking to that call to action in enough places on the page. Make it really clear to them when they come to your site, when they come to that landing page, that there will be an offer of what they can get in return for what they need to provide you, whether it's an opt-in form or buying something or booking some time with you. Be really clear as soon as they get to that page what it is that you're going to be making an offer of in return for their details or their time or whatever it happens to be. So those are the biggest 5 mistakes that small businesses make with landing pages in their business. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Systems Wise podcast. Remember, what we learned today builds more value if there's a plan to take action on it tomorrow. Head to getsystemswise.com/EP45 to get the resources for this episode. And while you're there, there's other training on the software and systems that you need in the right order to build a scalable business and without breaking the bank. And if you value the show, please help others to discover it too by leaving a recommendation or a testimonial wherever you're listening to this podcast. I'll see you next time.
The Systems Wise Podcast.